Hi, welcome to Planetary Calendar's Astro Portraits. I'm Lahni DeAmicis, one of the astrologers. Our subject this week is Jimmy Fallon, the current host of The Tonight Show. It's interesting that of the various different late night hosts, he is the youngest. Born in 1974 in Virgo, September 19th, in Brooklyn Heights, New York. Now, it's an interesting chart because you would think someone like that, it was very egotistical, but in truth, his chart is very focused on the Western Hemisphere, the area that's about we, not me, we. His sun is in Virgo, as I said, along with Venus, in the 7th house, the house of partnership. His Mars, Pluto, Mercury, and Uranus are all in Libra. It may have a little bit of an issue making up his mind at times, but it's all in the 8th house, which means that when he manages anything, he's got to get other people's opinions. He's got the moon in Scorpio in the 9th house. Very highly elevated conjunct Vesta. Very closely conjunct Vesta, 14 to 17 degrees. He keeps a flame alive for his mother and probably for his grandmother. His ancestry is very important to him. It shows a very strong connection to that feminine side of himself. And it's a lot of his philosophy, being in the 9th house, comes from his mother's side of the family. He's got Pisces rising, one of the Jupiter-ruled signs, and he's got Jupiter at the rising within 2 degrees or 1 degree. Jupiter's 11 degrees, the ascendant is 12 degrees. Juno, the asteroid, is at 8 degrees, and Ceres is at 4 degrees. That's quite a cluster there. Having Jupiter there is very powerful. It makes him just expand, explode, but in Pisces in a very mutable way. Remember, it's the sign opposite Virgo. They're both mutable signs. They like people. They want to be around people. Good thing for a comedian. Having the asteroids there, especially Ceres, the largest of the asteroid, it shows that he has additional ways of perceiving things that are very feminine that may not be obvious to other people. The thing about the asteroids is they speak about other methods of perception that are not obvious to other people. And it's why many times they're oftentimes seen as very feminine. Women can perceive things that men just I never saw that. Oh, didn't you notice? No, I didn't, because they have these additional perceptions. And that's one of the reasons why the asteroids are considered very feminine. And he having Juno, the marriage asteroid, and Ceres, the shepherdess, at the rising, it makes him a very natural shepherd. Having Jupiter there gives him a tremendous magnetism. People just kind of want to be near Jimmy. And if he goes in a particular direction, they'll follow him. What's funny is because he has the sun in the 7th house, he has so much in Libra, he always wants to know where they want to go. It doesn't mean he doesn't have a strong idea of where he wants to go, because he's got moon in Scorpio. He knows where he wants to go, but he really wants to know what they think, because he'll adjust his plans for them. So you have here a person who's very expansive, very adaptable, very concerned with other people. Well, how does this express out through his career? Well, you do see his tremendous flexibility in his personality, his ability to work as part of a team. You don't see a real strong ego. For instance, the only thing he has in Leo, which is the sign of the ego, is Astraea. He even has Mars, the most aggressive of the planets, in Libra, which is opposite the rising. It's called the detriment position. It's an introvert position. This is a person who spent a lot of times refining his inner self. He spent a lot of time getting to know his inner process. It's one of the reasons why he's so good at impressions. He spent a lot of time getting to look at people carefully and becoming them. That's that Libra. Libra can say, I am like you. We are together. We are a team. And it's a great quality in him. The moon in Scorpio is another introvert position, but it's what's called the fall position, which means he has a tremendous vulnerability to other people. He's very sensitive to other people's weaknesses. and their sense of vulnerabilities. One of the gifts that the moon of Scorpio gives. It's kind of like that old expression, no man is a hero to his butler, or to his, they would say among officers, to his Batman, the man who helped him dress. No man was a hero to him because he saw all of the places where they talked about their vulnerabilities, all their sensitivities. It's like a Louis XIV, the Sun King. He actually was raised by the servants, and throughout his life, he was always most comfortable with his servants because they knew all of his vulnerabilities. They knew Louis when he wasn't putting on his costumes for performances as the Sun King. That's a Virgo quality. They like the behind-the-scenes thing, and that moon in Scorpio really understands that. In his career, his midheaven is Sagittarius, another mutable sign. And Sagittarius, if nothing else, is joyful. It's optimistic. And that's something that works really well for a performer. He has the North Node there, which means following that dharmic path of joyfulness is great for him. Having Jupiter rising makes him very, very skilled at it. He also has Neptune there in what's called the Gogolon spot, clockwise from the midheaven. It's a very powerful place. Neptune is a very powerful success planet because it deals with our ability to visualize and imagine. If you can't imagine it, how are you going to create it? As I think so I become, well, yeah, because your imagination is active. Well, Neptune there. Neptune, remember, was discovered in the 1800s. So it's at the time when electricity first started becoming into common use. And as a result, people could start sending messages. Well, you get a telegraph message and you read the message. It's really just words, but you can imagine the person speaking it. In the 1800s, all of the newspapers were dramatically changed because all the messages were being sent nationwide by Morse code. And they could get the information very, very quickly. So something would happen in New York City. The same day, they would start typesetting it in San Francisco because it could go by wires. And in between were all these, Morse code operators who would have to transfer because it only could travel a certain distance down the line before it had to be transferred. Of course, what they started typing at the beginning probably was very different from what got there at the end. But the most educated, our most informed people in the country were the telegraph operators because they saw all the news first. That's very mercurial. That's Gemini, that's Virgo, that's very mercurial. And that's really where Jimmy Fallon comes from. He comes from that area of high levels of communication, but with a great sense of fun. There's a lot of depth to his personality, but what's funny is that almost the entire chart is above the horizon. It's with Jupiter just above the horizon, once again, right in the Gogolon spot. So real powerful Jupiter, a real powerful Neptune. These are positions for a very successful person, and you definitely can't deny that. Now, the descendant is at 12 degrees Virgo. His Venus is at 14 degrees. So the Venus is also angular, but in the partnership section. So you have three different planets, Venus, Jupiter, and Neptune. All likable planets in these very angular spots. And never underestimate angularity. Angular planets can overwhelm the rest of the chart. You might have a stellium in one sign, but if you got one planet that's really angular, it can take off on you because of the fact that it's got leverage. You may think of yourself as a Pisces, but if you have Mars and Aries angular, it's going to show itself in your life. Now, one of the reasons why the Gogolon spot's so interesting is it's clockwise from the angle. And it seems like when it's clockwise from the angle, it's more expressive. When it's counterclockwise from the angle, it's more internalized. So, little astrology tip there. This is meant to be educational after all. Now, what is below the horizon? Saturn. Saturn's the only major planet below the horizon in Cancer, in the 5th house, the house of creativity. Cancer, the sign of the moon, the sign of femininity. Remember how I said he's got this great belief in the feminine. He's got Vesta conjunct the moon in the 9th house. His sense of optimism, you might say his religion, is all about the feminine. It's all about the power of the feminine, Moon in Scorpio. It's all about his lineage. I suspect that in his spiritual guides, that his most powerful spiritual guides are women, are female relatives from his past. They're the ones who have really kind of said, you know what? Doing impressions, doing this and that, it's not the most boyish thing. You're not out there, chopping down trees. But this is very, very valuable. And because you love doing it, you should do it. So that's what those are the whispers he hears. And that Saturn in Cancer, which is once again a detriment position. It's an internalized position. This is part of his foundation. And it's in the 5th house, the house of creativity, the house of the heart. So at his heart, he's a very creative person. He has a tremendous amount of depth. Whenever you have a person with you have Venus in fall, you have the moon in fall, you have Saturn in detriment, you have Mars in detriment. This person has a very intense internal life. Because of that, it gives him a tremendous understanding of other people. It may make him overly gentle. Mars in Libra does not like to confront people. So this is not someone who likes confronting people. He wants to get along. He's got Mercury in Libra. He likes to get along. He may stir things up. He may have a lot of fun with it because he's got Mercury conjunct Uranus. He likes telling jokes. He likes getting the crowd going, but he wants to be there with them. He wants the partnership. He's got a stellium in Libra. Partnership matters to him. So really, that's Jimmy Fallon. I'll tell you, it's interesting, the parallels between him and his compadre, you might say, Stephen Colbert, who does The Late Show. They both have big focuses in the Western Hemisphere. So it's not about ego to them. It's about the team. And they both have Jupiter-ruled signs rising. Jimmy has Sagittarius rising, or Pisces rising, and Stephen has Sagittarius rising. So it's really very interesting, these two. There's a lot of parallels, and they're both earth signs. So down to the earth. So hope you enjoyed this. Remember, come see us on Tuesdays when we do our portrait. Come see us on Fridays when we do our weekly forecasts. You can visit our YouTube channel, Planetary Calendar Astrology, and subscribe to help us keep doing this. And of course, you're going to need your calendars. So visit planetarycalendar.com to get your calendars because you want to know what's going on. Thanks so much.